everybody, welcome to the Student Success Seminars. This is seminar number 2. It's called Happiness. I'm actually really excited to share with you some positive psychology, a little bit of tips and tricks and best of all habits that you can do just to be happier, have a more fulfilling life. It's a great skill set to build, and I really hope that you guys do enjoy it and benefit from this. This is an online seminar. It's actually meant for online students only. So if you are a campus student, please log out and go to the Connect calendar. You're going to go to events, and I teach the Student Success Seminars during weeks 2 and 3 of each month. All of them are taught on campus. If you are an online student, you are in the correct place because of course I wouldn't expect you to come to campus to attend the seminars. So this is a great way for us to connect and help you just develop a little bit more. Also, besides developing, you do receive 10 GPA points if you complete 5 out of the 8 seminars that are offered. So I'm going to tell you guys how to actually submit those seminars to me in just a moment here. If this is your first seminar you've ever done, this is great. It's a great seminar to start out with. To be happy, you do have to work on things like stress, that we teach the other seminars and relationships and so on. But you don't have to do them in any particular order. You can do number 2, 4, 5, and then 8, 7, 6. It doesn't matter. You can turn them all in at once, or you can turn them in as you go, and I will instruct you guys on where to turn them in at the end of the seminar as well. So without further ado, I am your host. My name is Amy Edwards. I work with the Student Success Department. I'm really happy to share this stuff with you guys. If you have any questions at all, I just wanted to introduce myself to you so you saw my face and knew I was a real person you could talk to about help. Please email me. My email is success@folsa.com, and I'm actually going to flip off my webcam so I can show you guys the agenda, the slides, the film that I'm going to show you. But I will be back on in a little while to pop in and check on with you guys. So the learning outcomes and agenda for today is to find out what is happiness, not only scientifically, but what is it to you. We're going to watch a documentary called Happy, and we're going to do a presentation to tie everything together. To earn credit for the seminars, please type up your summaries in a Word document with your student name, number, the title, number 2, happiness, and then each paragraph will have a question, and then I will ask you very clearly what I want you to write about for each question. So example, number 1, please answer this question for your first paragraph. What is happiness? What is happiness to you? Now we're going to watch a film. You can go ahead and pause this if you'd like to write your question now, or you can write your paragraph after we watch the film called Happy. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will be right back after the film.
The first question is, what do you want?
I don't know. To be happy?
To be happy.
I want the American dream. I want to be happy.
আর অনেকে গালাগালিও করে দেয় মাঝে সাঝে, যারা ধরুন একটু ডিমঝুম করে থাকে, হয়তো রিস্কায় উঠলো, তারা গালাগালি তাকে আর কি মারতে যাবো, আমি মারি, ঝগড়া করি না। কেন আজকে ঝগড়া করবো, আবার পরের দিন আমার রিস্কায় উঠবে না বলে ঝগড়া করে ঠিক আছে, দুটো গালাগালি করলো।
Would it surprise you to know that in a recent survey, this rickshaw driver, Manoj Singh, was found to be as happy as the average American?
তখন খালি পায়ে দাঁড়ায়, তখন ওই গরমকালে একটু বেশি কষ্ট হয় আমাদের, পা পড়ে প্লাস এদিকে রোদ্দুর তাপ, আর এমনি বর্ষাকাল ভালো, আমাদের কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, ভিজে গেলেও কোনো চিন্তা থাকে না, জানি আবার শুকিয়ে যায়, আর একটা প্যাসেঞ্জার তুলে দৌড়লে আর শুকিয়ে যাবে। বাড়ি আমার ভালো। বাড়িতে ভালো লাগে, একদিক দিয়ে এদিকে ফাঁকা, হাওয়াও আসে। বর্ষাকালে একটু কষ্ট হয়, ঝাপটা ঝুপটি চারিদিক দিয়ে মারে, তখন অসুবিধা, নাহলে এমনি প্লাস্টিক উপরে আছে, 4 সাইডে প্লাস্টিক দেওয়া, প্লাস একদিকে জানলা আছে, ওই জানলাতে হাওয়া ভালোই আসে, ভালোই থাকি, খারাপ কিছু না। এই সকালবেলায় ফিরি, যখন ওরা বসে থাকে ওই চা দোকান সামনেই, ওরা যখন মানে তাকায় রাস্তার দিকে যে বাবা এই আসবে, বাবা এই আসবে, তখন ওদেরও মন ভালো লাগে, প্লাস আমাকে যখন বাবা বলে ডাকে, আমার মনটা আরো খুব খুশি হয় আর কি। ওই বাচ্চা কাচ্চা যখন, ওই গরিব বলতে গেলে কি, বাচ্চা কাচ্চার মুখ দেখে তখন আমার বুকটা এত উঁচু হয়ে যায় যে আমার মতন কেউ বড় লোক নেই। হয়তো নুন ভাত খাচ্ছি, কিন্তু খুব আনন্দ হয় যে না কারোর সাথে ঝাঁটি নেই, কারোর সাথে এই যে মিলে রয়েছে, আমাদের খুব আনন্দ হয়। আমরা সবাই বন্ধু।
For hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, people have studied depression and psychological illness. The goal of psychologists was primarily to rid a patient of their problems. Recently, however, modern science has begun to look at how happiness works. What are the building blocks of a life that's not just free of illness, but one that flourishes with a deep and genuine happiness?
When I got into happiness research, it was 1981. It was not a popular field in psychology. People thought it was flaky, that it was loose. A professor said to me, you can never measure happiness. Now, why they thought you could measure depression, which they were all doing, but you couldn't measure happiness, I'm not sure. And then in the 90s, people started getting interested in it, and now it's absolutely amazing how many people are interested.
Magazine articles and books are being written about it. There's even a new field of science called positive psychology, which studies happiness. It became the most popular class at Harvard, with 1,000 kids showing up every week for a happiness class.
The first thing is to realize that happiness can actually help you get your other goals, have better relationships, make more money, do better at the job. People on the job are going to like you better if you're happy. What we've done, and I've done this for the last 25 years, collecting data. So we follow people and look at their moods over time. We've also looked at random samples of people from around the world, who's happy, who's not happy. Then we crunch all these numbers and we say, gee, what really matters?
By studying identical twins, people with almost exactly the same genetic makeup, researchers have discovered that approximately 50% of the differences in our happiness levels is determined by our genes. They call that our genetic set point, or our genetic set range.
Most of us are born with a certain range of happiness that we fall in most of the time. And even when really good or really bad things happen to us, we kind of tend to return to our set point.
And while 50% is genetic, amazingly, our circumstances, like what job we have or how much money we have, our social status, our health, those things that many of us are told to focus on, they only account for 10% of the differences in our happiness.
Most people are kind of stunned at how small that is, but that still leaves 40% unaccounted for. And so our theory suggests that there is a great deal you can do to become happier, and that 40% is left for kind of intentional behavior, things that we can do on a regular basis to become happier. It's very important, if a person wants to become happier, to try not to adapt to what they're doing. So they would consciously vary what they do. It could be like when you do your daily run, that you take a different route. I mean, that's not really, mind-boggling. For some people, it's going to be a lot of change. For some people, it's going to be a little, but that change is important. It's sort of the variety of the spice of life.
This is a paradise to me. That's why I love it so much. And then you don't know what you're gonna see. People either come for a tour, and well, what we gonna see? I don't know what you're gonna see, but we're gonna see something. Look right there. That's a crawfish eater. Look at that alligator on that big log. See it? I feel like a kid, man. And right where we at there, straight ahead, my house is right there across the levee. In the afternoon, sometime I'm kind of like down a little bit. I jump on my four-wheeler and I come park right there. My house is right there. And I watch these birds pass and just listen to the stillness.
Any discussion of happiness centers a lot on dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain called a neurotransmitter that's necessary for feelings of pleasure and happiness.
So electrical impulses come down a nerve, they hit the connection, and the connection releases chemicals. The chemicals diffuse to the next nerve cell, they bind to receptors in the next nerve cell, and they cause an electrical change. That chemical release that is released is called a neurotransmitter.
Pretty much as you age, from about teenage years onward, you're slowly losing dopamine synapses and probably dopamine neurons as well. As far as we know, no one's observed those regenerating. If it's too severe, then you end up with Parkinson's disease. The body adapts to what it needs to do. So the use it or lose it probably applies to some degree in the brain as well. And so the idea would be to seek out experiences that release dopamine or you need dopamine to do. The things that are best at doing that, interestingly, involve physical activity. So aerobic exercise is probably one of the best releasers of dopamine, especially if you do it in novel ways.
Qualquer atividade física é muito importante para qualquer ser humano. Que está numa idade que todo mundo no planeta talvez sinta que já está caindo, sabe? E eu me sinto subindo ainda, sabe? Então isso me sinto feliz, sabe? E muitas vezes você está ganhando dinheiro que é bom para você, mas não está se cuidando, né? Você não está se olhando, você não está feliz. Você dorme a cabeça no travesseiro, preocupado com o que é que eu vou pagar amanhã, quanto é que eu devo hoje, entendeu? Então, o esporte tira você disso, sabe? Dá um mergulho. Dá um mergulho. Espiritual, religião. Meu surf para mim é religião, sabe? Eu surfo desde o tempo de 1966. Quer dizer, eu estou fazendo uns 41 anos de surf, então... Sente exatamente isso, essa harmonia com a natureza, esse entrosamento com a natureza. É uma vida que eu escolhi, né? Não é uma vida de doutor, não, mas eu vivo bem, sabe? Mas é muito gratificante você poder surfar com os filhos, sabe? Para que eles nunca digam que eu não fiz o que eles gostaram de ser. Se ele quiser ser surfista, ele vai ser. Se ele quiser ser um doutor, ele vai ser. Minha filha quer ser uma economista, ela vai ser, entendeu? É o que eu digo sempre para meus filhos, né? Procura trabalhar para poder não viver uma vida tranquila, sabe?
It turns out that there's another component of surfing and exercise that can increase your happiness. It's what an athlete would call being in the zone.
I started studying people who were doing something very difficult and demanding for no good reason, no money, no status, nothing, but just because they like to do it. My understanding of what motivated these activities was not anything that came from outside, but it came from the activity itself. And I gave the name flow to this kind of synergy of different aspects of consciousness where you wish you could go forever because it feels that you are completely fulfilling something that you can do well and you can see it happening and you feel that nothing else matters. You have very clear goals that you know moment by moment what you have to do. Like if you're singing or playing a musical instrument, you always know what notes or chords you want to play next, and you can hear whether you did it right or not. People in that situation feel in control, they forget their problems. Interestingly, they forget themselves, so that the kind of ego that we are always aware of in everyday life disappears. It builds over time a feeling that life is worth living.
Flow can happen almost anywhere. It can happen during personal time, or it can happen with your family. It can even happen at your job.
It's all in the rhythm. It's all in the, just keeping the rhythm going. I'm doing it 14 years. I love it. Don't want to go nowhere else. Why do you love it? It's like cooking. Always is.
I gotta order hash browns all the way. Patty milk.
That's the grill operator.
The research is clear. People who experience flow on a regular basis are happier than those who don't.
Much of what we believe about the causes and sources of happiness simply isn't true. People overestimate how much impact both good and bad events will have on them in the future. People believe that if good things happen, they're going to be ecstatic and that joy will last a very long time. In fact, they are ecstatic and the joy quickly dissipates. People believe that if bad things happen, losing a lover, losing a football game, losing a job, they will be devastated and devastated for a very long time. In fact, they are devastated for a very short time. In general, people do really good when things go really bad. Sounds like a country song, but it actually turns out to be true.
What do you want out of life?
To be successful, to be happy, and to live a long, healthy life.
What's going to make you successful and happy? What will make you feel like you're successful and happy?
Right now, money. Yeah, lots of money.
We're told in our society that the way to be a competent person, the way to be a good person, is to make a lot of money. In the last 50 years, economic growth has gone up a lot. In America, for example, we're about twice as wealthy as we were 50 years ago. But nationally representative surveys of people's happiness show that happiness has remained stagnant. People aren't any happier than they were 50 years ago, even though they're living in a lot bigger houses, they have more cars.
Anybody who says money doesn't buy happiness should go talk to somebody living under a bridge. But anybody who says money buys happiness should go talk to Bill Gates, okay? Neither of those things is actually true. When money buys you out of the burdens of homelessness, of not knowing where your next meal will come from, it changes your happiness dramatically. But once you have basic needs met, more money doesn't seem to buy more happiness. The difference in happiness between a person who earns $5,000 and $50,000 is dramatic. The difference in happiness between a person who earns $50,000 and $50 million is not dramatic.
The idea goes back to this notion of the hedonic treadmill, which says that whatever level of wealth or material goods you have, you adapt to it and you'll always want more. That's what the hedonic treadmill is.
The hedonic adaptation is one of the main enemies of happiness.
Remember Roy Blanchard? He told us earlier about the novelty and the beauty he experiences in nature. Well, Roy's also part of a family that just might be one of the happiest families around. The Blanchards are an extended family of children, siblings, and in-laws. Most live within a few miles of each other. They live modestly and with very little material wealth, but they seem to have plenty of happiness to go around.
Tous notre enfant parle le français, c'est la dernière. Et la plus jeune.
In English, somebody tell you something and you didn't understand it, you say, could you please repeat that again? I didn't understand it. In French, you say, ah.
That's your
We didn't even have toilet paper. We had to use the Sears catalog.
That's American. Isn't that American? Using the Sears catalog, that's American.
And how often do you come together?
Oh, at least once a week.
We were our playmates. Our parents, they were the playingest people. They played marble with us. We swam every day.
Every afternoon, the whole family would be in the lake swimming.
All this food right here didn't cost us a penny. We could feed 25 people for nothing. If you got to buy all that, you almost got to be rich. But, you know, that's the way we live. We call it live off the land. And that one got good. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Enough for one person. My daddy, he was a carpenter.
Somebody needs something done, we just get together and we do it.
The daddy built a lot of our houses. We didn't hire no plumbers and electricians. The family was able to put us a house together.
We studied some of the happiest people, and we found, without exception, that all of them had close, supportive family and friends. That didn't mean that they loved everybody or, you know, they got along with everybody, but what it meant was every one of them had close family and friends.
We make a distinction between two main kinds of goals or values which people might pursue in life: intrinsic goals and extrinsic goals. So extrinsic goals are extrinsic in the sense that they're focused on something external to you. They're focused on rewards, they're focused on praise, they're focused on getting stuff. And the three main examples of extrinsic goals we've looked at in our research are for money and financial success, for image, kind of looking good, having the right appearance, and for status or popularity. Now we contrast those with intrinsic goals. Intrinsic goals are inherently satisfying in and of themselves because they have to do with intrinsic psychological needs that all people have. And the three intrinsic goals which we've studied are goals for personal growth, trying to be who I really am, having close connected relationships with like friends and my loved ones, and then community feeling, which is having a sense of wanting to help the world to be a better place. We found that intrinsic goals are on the exact opposite side of value systems compared to extrinsic goals, okay? They're in opposition with each other. The other thing we know from a decade of research at this point is that people who were more oriented towards money and status and image were reporting less satisfaction with their lives. They were more depressed, more anxious. We found that they felt less vital, less sort of energized in their day-to-day life. On the other hand, intrinsically oriented people were more happy. They were reporting more vitality, less depression, less anxiety.
If our values are a key component of happiness, that may explain one of the anomalies in international happiness research. According to an increasing amount of data, Japan is the least happy of the wealthy industrialized nations.
最後の質問なんですけど、今日は何の日でいらっしゃいますか？
誕生日です。
おいくつになられるんですか
？39です。
39、お若いですよね。
ありがとうございます。
はい。けど誕生日の日にこういう友達と飲まれて例えばご両親とか、はい、彼女とかどうおっしゃってますか？
誘われるがままに言ってますんでね。彼女には言ってあります。それよりか大事なちょっと仕事の話があるんで、で彼女とは明日会います。明日会います。
After World War II, Japan's entire workforce was mobilized to rebuild the country from the ground up. For decades, they emphasized economic growth and material prosperity above all else, and their achievements were the envy of the Western world. But those achievements have come at an awful price. A telling and dangerous phenomenon is occurring in Japan. People are working such long hours and enduring so much stress that they are literally working themselves to death. It's become so common, so many people have died, that they even have a word for it: karoshi. This toxic lifestyle is leading to record low levels of happiness among the Japanese. One small Asian country is taking a different path. Bhutan is a country with a fledgling economy, and one might expect it to follow economic policies that prioritize growth, as do most developing nations.
What we saw was that in the pursuit of economic development, people and societies had lost their cultures, their environment, their social systems, and humanity was having problems. That's why Bhutan said, okay, this is not enough. GDP is not enough. Humanity needs a higher goal for development, and that is gross national happiness.
What they're doing in Bhutan is, instead of trying to maximize gross national product, they're trying to maximize gross national happiness. They're trying to figure out what is it that's going to make our people happy. Not rich, but happy.
We believe that this contentment, this happiness lies within the self, and there's no external source. The faster car, bigger house, more fashionable clothes is not going to give you that contentment. It might give you fleeting pleasure, but not contentment. Gross national happiness is the responsibility of the government to create an environment where citizens can pursue happiness.
So let's say, for example, Bhutan has got lots of potential to dam up its valleys, sell hydroelectricity to India, but when they flood their valleys, they have to move people. When they flood their valleys, they lose their forest cover. They lose some of their sites of spiritual significance to them. So what they want to do is they want to balance these things. They want to think just not, oh, okay, dam this valley, sell this amount of hydro to India for this amount of money, GDP goes up. They want to look at it in a more textured approach.
Gross national happiness is important that it makes us think about what we do, of ourselves as individuals, of society, of the world. Think rationally, think holistically, think spiritually. In terms of environment, our law says 60% of Bhutan must always be forest. In terms of culture, we have monasteries, we have schools to be protected by the state, we have rules on dress, language, architecture. So this is how the government is creating this environment.
If we think about societies, the ultimate purpose of society should be to produce long and happy lives for its citizens.
The people of Bhutan have only recently begun pursuing gross national happiness. And to know how successful they'll be, we'll have to wait and see. Another country in a different part of the world consistently ranks as the happiest country on earth. Denmark is known for its social equality and high standard of living. All Danes are provided free education through college and free health care for life. But Denmark's most unique and revealing quality is that it has more of its population living in what are called co-housing communities than in any other modern industrialized nation. In Danish co-housing communities, multiple families live on a plot of land, or even in a single building, where certain chores and benefits are shared by everyone.
When I moved in here, I was newly divorced, 2 little children. I didn't have a work, so I was kind of isolated. If I had to move in a flat alone, I would go down, I would be depressed, I would isolate, and so I thought I had to find this place, and I found it. It was a miracle I found it. We live 20 families together. The houses are close to each other. This is our house. We live 4 people here, and outside here I have a little extra room. It's like a place to grow flowers, but we use it as a living room. And this it's paintings my children made for me. There's an empty space up there. It's made for my children. Often ask me, and I say it's because I want to show you that we can put up more paintings. It's not finished. It's a working piece. And here is Juliane living, and she has a little animal, which is also a kind of symbol of our flat, our house, because it's a very tiny animal, and it has a very tiny cage to live in. But I used to tell them that this animal has more space than we have. 50 years ago, people in Denmark also lived in Copenhagen, lived in small flats, and they had a lot of children, and they had a nice childhood anyway. So
It's like a big family. Yeah, I feel like a big family.
I have 3 children and they eat a lot. It helps me a lot to live in this community because we eat together nearly every evening. We cook 1 or 2 times a month each. It takes 4, maybe 5 hours. And to cook only twice a month instead of every day, it saves a lot of energy of thinking what is the meal today, and to buy all the stuff and to make it and to do the dishwash. Every day it saves, I don't know, 2 hours and a lot of energy.
And this place, when we get 14, we have to make food.
So it's 2 girls and 14 cooking for 40, 50 people. It's really cool. And they come to ask for help, but they are very good, they do it. Everybody is talking about stress and the families with small children have stress because they come home from work, they have to buy, they have to cook. And when I come home and I have had my shower, and then I have 2 or 3 hours with my children. I like that these elder people living here because they are kind of grandmother and grandfather for my children. I feel they love my children as much as I do, and they are happy when they visit them and they come here and they get hugs from my children. And I feel it's a gift from me to my children to live here. So it was a miracle I found this place. It saved me kind of to find it because I needed to be surrounded by other grown-ups, not only my own very small children. I have lived here for 12 years now. I gladly take 12 years more.
I think when we work in a community, we realize that, you know, my life is pretty good as it is, and I have something to give to somebody who maybe doesn't have something that I have. And I think that makes people switch from sort of focusing on what don't I have to what do I have that I can share. And that's a very powerful thing that we know from the research makes people happier.
Happiness isn't just about feeling more blissful and content. Happy people tend to function better. They're more productive, they're healthier, and the research suggests they even live longer. Well, if long life is an indication of happiness, then the people in Okinawa, Japan might just be ecstatic. Because according to the Guinness Book of World Records, that's where a disproportionate number of the world's oldest people live. So despite the stress and unhappiness in other parts of Japan, the islanders of Okinawa have a different story to tell, one of longevity and happiness.
説明することできないですけどね、小木さんがですね、長寿の村といってですね、宣言したのはですね、確かになんとか100歳人口比例ですね、100歳以上の方が世界一であるということですね。
金も買ってるするといって非常に働いた。だからこんな健康。晩になったらまたね、晩になったら晩酌。少しやったら非常にぐっすり眠る。前はね、サウナにわざわざ汗出しに行ってさね、だけどこの畑仕事したら2時間働いてきたらね、もう汗がびっそり、もうとってもいい気持ち。もう汗がびっそりだからすぐお風呂入って朝ごはん食べてまた洗濯やったり。
Besides experiencing flow on a regular basis, Okinawans grow vegetables that subsidize their livelihoods and provide gifts for friends and neighbors, bringing the people even closer together.
自分が作ったのはもう本当に美味しい。全然総力何もしないから。気持ちのせいかね、もう自分たちで作ったのが美味しい。幸せです。
Even the Okinawan traditions keep people connected in unique ways. The island has a traditional band of about 50 people, and the rule is that the band members must be between the ages of 20 and 30. The band is supported by community funds and plays in a different village every Friday night. Since there's not much other nightlife on the island, lots of people come out to see them, both young and old. It's a tradition that ensures regular contact between people, not only from different villages, but from different generations. The Okinawan elders gather each afternoon to have tea and talk about the day at a local community center. And though now housed in a modern building, it's been a staple in Okinawan society as long as people there can remember.
悪いことしていけないというこの気持ちがみんなに親しくしているからっていう分の兵隊がこう兵隊がみんな
私はね、戦争未亡人だけど私は一人もやってこの中近所ってこのね付き合いする大組の方に高田との方にもね踊り習いに行ったりカラオケしに行きましたよ。このおばさんが一番可愛い私は本当友達がいっぱいいるのが一番幸せ。どっちかといえばとにかくこれはですね、各家庭みんなたまたま不幸がある時はもう部落の人がみんなこの
したら前は埋葬だったけど、今もう仮装になりました。仮装してきたら、してうちら団体一門ばっかといってね、兵糧の墓から箱に遺骨を拾ってきてね、この遺骨をすぐこぼしてみんな墓の中にみんな全部のもの。もう一家族という意味で。そう。
First act after birth is relying on mother and sucking milk. At that time, no idea who is that person. But simply, you see, the mother side also, tremendous sense of care, affection, compassion. So the bond, closeness between mother and child, not by law, not by religious teaching, but by nature. Compassion from birth in our blood. These are there. Not only at the beginning, but the whole life.
Compassion. Richard Davidson told us that people who do a specific form of meditation on compassion and loving kindness can increase their happiness levels to a greater extent and for longer periods of time, even than people taking powerful antidepressant medications.
There are specific meditation practices that have been around for more than 2,500 years, which are explicitly designed to cultivate qualities like compassion and loving kindness. The person we've tested the most in our lab is a person by the name of Mathieu Ricard. He has been a Tibetan Buddhist monk for more than 30 years. He also holds a PhD in molecular biology. And we have looked intensively at Mathieu's brain, both at rest as well as when he is intentionally generating these states of compassion. So there's no obvious change in external behavior. You know, he's just sitting there, and then we give him the instruction to begin the compassion meditation, and all of a sudden, it's like, you know, parts of the brain are on fire. These are areas of the brain which are extremely important for understanding happiness and well-being. And so we are, for example, currently doing studies where we are having people who've never meditated before, and we're having them do very simple exercises, 2 weeks of training in this simple compassion practice does change the brain in ways which are similar to, although not nearly as well defined as what we see in very long-term meditation practitioners. There is some evidence to indicate that we actually change the gross structure of the brain, literally the size of particular cortical areas in the brain change in their thickness. We, through intention, can change our brain.
We ask people to count their blessings on a regular basis. Say every Sunday night you sit down, you write down 5 things for which you're grateful, and kind of try to contemplate that. And we found that the students who counted their blessings once a week, every Sunday night, became happier. A couple studies we did, we asked people to commit acts of kindness on a regular basis. You know, they're going out and they're putting change in parking meters, and they're, you know, helping their friend with homework, or was visiting someone in the nursing home, or, you know, really doing real, you know, concrete behaviors. And it seems to me from our experience that the acts of kindness so far have been the most effective.
Mother Teresa, a symbol of compassion, opened her first home for dying and destitute people here in Calcutta, India. Andy Wimmer is a volunteer at the home.
I was a bank and computer manager for many years, and a quite ambitious fellow. I wanted to become the youngest bank director there, spoiled with a good income, used and spent a lot of money, and had a good life actually, enjoyed the life. Yeah. I used to waste a lot of money on fashion, for example. I was quite a fellow with quite, you know, into fashion and all these things. But it is not important anymore. I always felt that there is more in this life, you know, than just going to the bank and having a good salary and having a good career and maybe a wife and children, and that's it. It can't be. Life is such a precious and beautiful thing. There should be some more, you know. I met someone who worked in the home for the dying, and he said, I show you that place, and if you like feeling helping us, then you're welcome. My life has a meaning. You have someone, a dying man in front of you, a dying young man, and he asks for a glass of water. It is very little, but it's so important to give him this glass of water. It's such a symbolic act even, you know. I got this life. I get my parents, my friends. I was never really sick. I had always enough food to eat. I am the first one in my generations which never experienced a war. For me, my life is like a loan given from God, and I will give this loan back, but with interest. And that's what we do. You serve your brother in front of you who is in need, and it gives yourself a fulfilled, happy life. Perfect, no?
Gratitude, compassion, caring, love, these are to me what I would call spiritual emotions. And they make you think of things bigger than yourself. If you only seek your own happiness, it can be kind of a selfish thing. But once you move to the spiritual emotions and worry about the well-being of the world, your life grows. You care about something bigger than yourself. You, in a way, can transcend your own life, your own death, by caring about these things that are bigger than yourself.
If each of us even spent a smidgen of time each day actually practicing to cultivate happiness and also to cultivate other virtuous qualities like compassion and altruism, the world would really be a better place, and we'd all be transforming our brains in very positive ways.
And it's not about, oh, I must change my life totally and cut off from my past and I'll be a better person. It's not about that. It's because the trick is to be authentically you.
We should really be thinking of happiness as a skill, which is no different than learning to play the violin or learning to play golf.
The formula for happiness is not the same for everyone. But the good news is that the things we love to do are the building blocks of a happy life. Play, having new experiences, friends and family, doing things that are meaningful, appreciating what we have. These are the things that make us happy, and they're free. And with happiness, the more you have, the more everyone has.
Everybody, welcome back. You just saw what everyone's personal interview, what happiness is to them in our film. I'm sure you picked out a couple of places you'd really like to move to. But what is your idea of happiness where you live in your life here? Is it money? Is it fame? Maybe it's when the Cubs win the World Series or when your cat curls up in your lap. Or maybe it's just that you look around at everything we have. We have so many things. We have a little square device in our pocket called a smartphone where we have knowledge of the entire world at our fingertips. Maybe you've never been hungry before. You've always had enough food to eat. Maybe you have friends and family, loved ones as someone in your life that you're happy to see every day, and you're happy with all that you have. So let's back up a minute. Just think for a second about how in 384 to 322 BC, Aristotle concluded, more than anything else, men and women seek happiness. So this is not a newly sought after emotion, guys. We have wanted to be happy for thousands of years. People think they need to go out and improve or buy something to become happy, but beauty and money and power is valued only because we expect that it will make us happy. A lot has changed since Aristotle's time, but just some things really haven't. Our understanding of the worlds of stars and atoms has expanded beyond belief. Even when I was a kid, there were 5 different flavors of Pop-Tarts. Now there's over 87 different flavors. Just what wonders will the world think of next? And yet, on the most important issue in all of our lives, which is happiness, not a lot has changed over the centuries. We don't really understand on a day-to-day level basis what happiness is, really any better than Aristotle did. And for learning over the centuries how to obtain this, we could argue that we've made a lot of progress in things like Pop-Tarts and medicine and technology, but we haven't made a lot of progress in how to achieve happiness. It's because in the past we had to survive, and now we're thriving. We have everything we need. Now we want things that we just simply want. A study of happiness has always been a curiosity to us because it's our most valued emotion, and rightfully so. It should be the most studied thing in life since it is our most valued emotion. The study of happiness classifies our level of happiness in 3 ways: positive effect, negative effect, and life evaluation, which is overall life satisfaction. The science behind emotions associated with happiness that we do have, and studies that we are and have been doing, are just moving all of humanity towards a more comprehensive understanding of what it means to actually live a good life. A life full of purpose and meaning, in Aristotle's words. Or if you like the new modern day t-shirt company, life is good. An obsession with negative emotion, human dysfunction, and weaknesses just really only contributes to our insights of what we used to focus on and what is just no longer important. Sometimes it's easier, because we do languish on the negative, like we just talked about, to first focus on what happiness is not. Sometimes in science, if you can't easily find a solution, you can do a process of elimination like this. An easier question might be then, what isn't happiness? So happiness is not feeling good or hunky-dory all the time, kind of like Pleasantville. What goes up must come down. You can't have the sweet without the bitter. We've all heard that before. Furthermore, when you ask people what makes their lives worth living, they rarely say anything about their mood. They're more likely to cite things that they find meaningful, such as their work or relationships. And recent research even suggests that if you focus too much on trying to feel good all the time, you'll actually undermine your ability to feel good at all. So in other words, no amount of feeling good will be satisfying to you, since what you expect all the time isn't physically possible for most people, if not all people on the planet. I don't know about you, but I'm a pretty happy person, and I certainly don't think that I feel good all the time. And if I had those expectations about myself to feel good 100% of the day, I would let myself down with disappointment, and that would have a very negative effect on me because it's just not sustainable. Happiness is not being rich or affording everything you could ever possibly want. While living below the poverty line certainly makes it hard to be happy, beyond that, money doesn't appear to buy happiness. Imagine you unexpectedly get a $10,000 a year raise. That's really exciting, $10,000. While you would certainly be excited in the short term, it would only be a matter of time before your expectations change to fit your new budget. Before you know it, you're just as happy as you were before the raise. And this holds true for new houses, new cars, new gadgets, all of the other material goods that people spend so much time pining for, because we all adjust to what we expect. The only exception to this rule, and pay attention because this is important, is when you spend your money on experiences with other people. So if you took that extra $10,000 a year and you spend it on some weekend getaway trip to some new and exciting place with your friends or family, then you might be happier. However, this is rarely how people choose to spend their money. I'm sure glad I didn't have any money in my 20s, because this is not how I would have spent my money. I would have probably spent it on fashion and clothes and disposable things and iPhones. Whereas now I really value spending time with family and just time in general and traveling. If you're living on the streets, money means a lot to increase in your happiness. When it can buy you out of the burdens of living under a bridge, sleeping on your buddy's futon, being homeless, and having a home certainly makes a difference. However, $75,000 is scientifically proven to be a pretty good place to aim for. Economists say that your happiness levels rise with your yearly income up to this amount. Salaries above $75,000 have no impact on our day-to-day feelings of happiness. although they do improve our overall satisfaction with our lives. More money might not make us as happy as we expect because we get used to having more money, and then gratitude goes out the window. We end up wanting more. The hedonic treadmill, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and we saw that in the film. There's always that carrot, and people choose to live beyond their means all the time. Even if we earn a lot, we're likely to compare ourselves to others who make even more money than we do and have more. Society rubs it in our face over and over and over again. And finally, happiness is not a final destination. If a group of friends set out to climb Mount Everest, have you ever seen the amount of work that this takes to do this? Go watch Everest. It's amazing. When they finally get to the top, they started screaming and celebrating and popping champagne, and then they just stood there until one of them finally said, "Well, that was fun. Let's go back down." So achieving your dream is never about the destination. It's about the journey. Truly it is. People think that you have dreams, and once you get there, it will be a magical place. But the only way to really achieve your dreams is to enjoy the whole journey. Celebrate the whole way. I know that sounds corny, but some people just wait too long to celebrate. The old adage, "Are we there yet?" is often applied to discussions of happiness, as if a person walks through life towards happiness and one day just arrives. Contrary to popular belief, though, unless you're one of those really lucky people that won the genetic lottery that are naturally happy, it takes regular effort to maintain happiness, and most established techniques for becoming happier, which we're going to discuss, keeping a gratitude journal, for example, are habits. They're not one-shot events. And most life events that make us happy in the short term, like getting married or being promoted, fade away over time as we adapt to them. So what is happiness? Well, it's different for everyone. That's one thing we can be sure of. I really hope that none of you feel like the baby on the right and you feel more like the baby on the left. Happiness is different for everyone. A joyful life is an individual recipe that cannot be copied from one person to one person. So what is happiness scientifically speaking? The research suggests that happiness is a combination of how satisfied you are with your life. For example, finding meaning in your work, having family and friends, and having a good life quality, and how good you feel on a day-to-day basis. Both of these are relatively stable, and that's good news. That is, our life changes and our mood fluctuates, but our general happiness is more genetically determined than anything else. The good news is with consistent effort, this can be offset because 40% of what you do every day is an intentional activity to increase this, and we'll talk about this in just a second. In other words, you have the ability to control how you feel, and with consistent practice, you can form lifelong habits for a more satisfying and fulfilling happy life. I'm not going to go really deep into overview of positive psychology. I did put a little bit of the history on this slide for you if you were interested in knowing where it came from and the dates and who started it. I'm more interested in looking at that chart in the bottom of this slide. So this is important. We used to think of our life circumstances as predicting our happiness, such as if we're born to a rich area or a rich family, or born to a impoverished area or poverty family. But clearly, from the poorest regions in the world in this film, we see that's just not the case. 50% of our happiness is genetic, while only 10% is circumstances. I don't know how many of you were surprised by that. I was certainly surprised the first time I ever heard that in research. I always thought that happiness depended on where I was born or what kind of life I started with. That leaves a huge slice of the pie. 40% of intentional activity that we can do to increase our happiness every day. That's really good news. That's great news for everybody, because that means that we have a lot of work to do. And here's just a little bit more information if you are really interested in positive psychology. It just kind of really points out that we as humans really enjoy studying and focusing on when things go bad and when things are wrong. Obviously, there have been very, very many articles posted on anger, 58,000 on anxiety, 71,000 on depression, and only 850 on joy, 3,000 on happiness, and 5,700 on life satisfaction. These are always being updated, but I just wanted to point out how much we actually do need to really focus on that 40% of intentional activity and the things that are working and we can improve on. So let's focus on some of those intentional activity examples and recap on what it means to live a good life. First of all, we can start to rethink success. Aspire to the right goals. Many people think that a bigger house or a more expensive car or fancier wardrobe will make them happier. It might at the moment, but this contentment is always fleeting. Instead of pursuing intrinsic goals like money and status and power, try to focus on the bigger picture. For example, if you're in the gaming industry, maybe you would want to make a game that would help a disabled kid learn. Maybe make music that's going to inspire someone to be a great dancer. Inspire, make beauty, make the world a better place. Find purpose and strive for that personal growth and for your own growth too. Prioritize helping others. Your happiness isn't just about you. Donate to charity. Put it in your budget to donate to charity and give to people in need. There are always going to be people out there that don't have things that you do have, and you're going to find you have something to give. Physically go out there and do things. Next time you're in line for coffee, maybe instead of getting that double mocha frappe, extra shot, extra sugar, extra whipped cream on top, maybe just get a simpler coffee and buy the person behind you a coffee. You're going to remember years from now the way that person smiled at you or the things that person said when you bought them a coffee, but you're not going to remember that extra shot of espresso or that extra shot of whipped cream. Trust me. So express gratitude. We saw in this film his home only had 3 walls and it was missing an entire side. But he looked at that and he spoke about that as a very positive thing, that it had an extra window, that it let light in, that a breeze could come in with that. None of us would ever think that when you look at that picture right now at that house. But that is what expressing gratitude is all about. If you cannot think of anything to be grateful for, look at this house, and I promise you will be inspired to think of something. So here's your paragraph 2 homework. For paragraph number 2 for your essay questions, you're going to write down 5 things you are grateful for. You can tell me about it, you can explain, or you can simply just list the 5 things that you're grateful for. It may be something you're grateful for in general or something you're grateful for today. This helps you to appreciate what you already have rather than fixating on what you don't have. And you're going to find out that you have so much to be thankful for. So if you guys would like to go ahead and pause your video right now to take a chance to write down the 5 things you're grateful for, remember it is paragraph number 2 and this is how you would format it. Hey guys, in addition to doing the assignment to write down the 5 things that you're grateful for, I also want to just kind of introduce and maybe give you this skill and this habit. I keep a gratitude journal. It's just a regular journal that someone gave to me for Christmas. There's nothing special about it, but what's special about it is what I put into it. So I do write down pretty consistently, not every day, but maybe a few times a week. Sometimes I do it every day. I do write down 5 things that I'm grateful for that day. And all I did was just put like a little sticky note on the front just to make it, personal and remind me, keep it on my desk at work. I do it on bad days, I do it on good days. I try to do it all the time. So if you really like writing down the things you're grateful for, put things in perspective for you, please try this out. And always keep moving and just have fun doing novelty activities. Even if you're playing Pokemon Go with friends or running a 5K, researcher Dan Gilbert says that when we're actually resting and idle, we're the least happiest, and when we're active and doing something, we're happier. Invest in your community. Look up your local community center and find ways you can actually become more involved, even if it's just attending or supporting a local community annual event or festival. And one of the most important things is to find your flow. Find something you enjoy doing and get lost in it. A book, exercise, painting, music, etc. Flow is when you are in the zone or you're completely lost in what you're doing. Sleep is annoying. Food doesn't matter. You just want to do what you do. We saw in the video, Ronaldo, the free spirit from Brazil, talked about finding flow in surfing. Riding the waves allows him to be present, and it keeps him from just worrying about the small stuff in life. Jamal talked about finding flow in his everyday job making burgers. I love that. I love to cook and I love food. I would be very happy doing something like that and finding passion. And I'm very lucky to have found passion and flow in what I do every day. To love something so much that you are almost become a part of it. Isn't that something that we all want and have found in the things that we're studying and doing here at Full Sail? Grab that and hold on to it for dear life and throw yourself into the things that you find flow in. Have new experiences and cultivate your passion. Travel somewhere new that you've never been. Go to a new restaurant you've never eaten at. Use passion to find meaning in your life. People find meaning through a fulfilling career, raising kids, through spirituality and religion, or pursuing goals that just align with their core values. Whatever that is to you, do it with passion and do new things often. Eat well and sleep lots. That can be pretty tricky when you're trying to balance your work and family and school and still manage to eat and sleep well. But you have to at least make some type of effort. Sleep isn't something that you can do at the end of the day when everything else is done. You have to actually even make yourself put in your calendar time to sleep. Okinawa has the most 100-year-olds per capita in the world, and they obviously eat very well and they go to bed early, which contributes to a long and happy life. Be resilient. When life knocks you down, you just have to get back up. And how resilient you are is going to make a huge difference in your life. You can nurture relationships just by surrounding yourself with friends and family. We saw this with the families in Denmark and Louisiana in the film, and if you didn't move to campus away from your home and family, most of you taking online classes right now might live with your family or have family and friends that live nearby, and that kind of makes you rich in a sense. I want to have you try something. I'm going to give this to you as a challenge, but this isn't necessarily homework, though I'd love to hear about it if you do include this in your summaries. This is optional. The next time you're at the dinner table with your friends or family, or the next time you call someone that you know, ask them to tell you something good that happened to them today or in the last week. Ask them what's the biggest highlight of the day or of the week. Go around at the dinner table and take turns sharing if you're eating dinner together. This will ultimately change the mood at the table or your phone conversation, and it will turn into such a rich conversation. I used to do this at work with a team where we did this every Monday, and we really bonded over a course of time where we shared our lows and highs with each other. The relationships you share in this bonding experience are genuine and priceless. Just try it. If you do try it, again, please let me know how your experience went in your summaries below, or incorporate this as a habit that your family does every single week when they gather.
I can't believe you could have a heart failure just from being sad. I mean, how are you supposed to treat that?
He's coding. Get me a box of kittens, stat!
You have the ability to control how fulfilling your life is by actually practicing happiness. We all feel sadness, we all feel stress and negativity. So why can't we just stop and automatically be happy? There isn't just a magical way without effort to become happy. Like how in this clip from Scrubs I just showed you, the patient's dying from a broken heart and sadness, and he miraculously recovers with a box of kittens. If only it was that easy, guys. I would carry around a box of kittens with me everywhere I went. But happiness isn't something that just happens. It isn't the result of good fortune or random chance. It's not something that money can buy or power can command. It doesn't depend directly on outside events, but rather on how to interpret them. Happiness, in fact, is a condition that must be prepared for, practiced, and defended privately and fiercely by each person. So if happiness is a skill, you can actually practice positive thinking as one of your skill sets to achieve happiness. You can practice positive thinking, practice positive affirmations, or mindfulness. Optimism enhances the quality of life, and anybody can practice it. Ray Blanchard would sit outside and look at the view from his backyard when he felt sad or negative. By all means, please go outside as much as possible to relax and renew in nature. But what happens when you're waiting in the line at the grocery store and the cashier is typing in dozens of coupons in front of you? Her printer breaks and the person behind you bumps into the back of your leg with her cart while her children are screaming behind you. Close your eyes and picture a positive image. Visualization has been practiced for ages by everyone from Aristotle to Tiger Woods. There are different names for visualization, such as guided imagery, neurolinguistic programming, and autogenetic training. By whatever name everybody does it, it's called worrying. When you worry, you are either playing a tape of what happened in the past or imagining the future. These images have psychological consequences. Visualization works best if you engage in all 5 senses mentally. If you can imagine seeing, hearing, touching, or smelling and feeling in your imagination, it's a much more powerful experience and it paints a much more powerful scene for you visually. So close your eyes. Picture yourself lying on the soft, powdery sand of a secluded beach. Feel the warmth of the sun. Hear the waves. Smell the sea air and the cocoa butter in your suntan lotion. You get the picture, right? This is something you can easily practice. And I like to think about the sky and the clouds on a nice sunny day with the nice weather, because that's something that you can appreciate pretty much every day when you walk outside on most good weather days. But Miss Edwards, I'm just too busy to make happiness and practicing happiness a priority in my life. I hear this all the time from students, from faculty, from staff, from friends, from family. Some of you may be feeling a lot like Jimmy here on the left-hand side of the picture. I really hope none of you feel as bad as the man on the right-hand side of the picture. There is a word for that in Japan. It's called karoshi. We all multitask and we are all so busy. I wouldn't be surprised right now if you're multitasking as we speak. But there is a balance between school and your life that you need to individually find out to make you happy. So I'm going to pull away from the lesson in the movie for just a minute to address something that affects a big majority of our happiness for all online students. The fact is that you may be asking yourself, how am I going to make happiness a priority because I'm so busy and my life is so chaotic? A lot of us are on our phone, our iPad, computer for a large portion of the day, especially all of you as online students. Being busy and online doesn't have to be a bad thing, guys. Millennials have been told being on your phone is bad for your stress and health. Well, yeah, if you have your phone out on a date or when you visit your family for the first time in months, you all just sit around on your phones at dinner, then yes, it is bad for your health when you use it in a negative way. 52% of Americans check their email before and after work, and even on sick days at home. This can actually lead to more stress, leading to more burnout, and leading to actually taking more sick days. But being busy, particularly if we're busy with the right things, can be great for overall happiness. But juggling conflicting commitments, managing stress in multiple directions, and generally running on empty can really dampen your mood. So capitalize on the good things about being busy. Capitalize on the good things about being on your devices and having so much of this technology at our fingertips. It's actually a good thing. A busy schedule means there are a lot of opportunities right in front of us to enhance the quality of our lives. Not everyone has time to cook or hike or go outside or take a vacation. However, if you look down at your desk right now in front of you, it might look a lot like this picture shown here. So what are we going to do about that? I don't know about you guys, but I am in absolute awe by the internet. We are so blessed to have it. At least 80% of American adults are online, and 58% of American adults own a smartphone. So we carry online social access with us pretty much everywhere, literally. Some of you may feel the negative effects of online, but there is a ton of good out there. There's a community of people online that are just plain optimist. You just have to know where to look and to not ignore the good when you see it and only focus on the bad. 90% of online users say the internet has been a good thing for them personally, and 56% of internet users say they have seen an online group come together to help a person or community feel better or solve a big problem. Remember when no one showed up to his 6-year-old autistic boy's birthday party, and his mom posted a very emotional message on Facebook, and complete strangers just responded with gifts and messages that just uplifted that family, probably changed that little boy's life forever. Or when a Georgia police officer was in dire need of a kidney transplant, and his daughters posted a picture of them holding up a sign that read, "Our daddy needs a kidney," a plea that actually turned into a perfect match. Or the ALS bucket challenge that raised so much awareness and money. This video of a son who recorded a secret dating video for his awesome mom. It's called Looking for Adam, by the way. There's GoFundMe pages, videos, and Facebook Live posts of people just celebrating life. It's beautiful and inspiring, and it's out there everywhere if you just know where to look for it. There is good in there, and you need to go be a part of the good. Back to the demands of our online life, we just talked about how we can do just little positive things to capitalize on our time online. No matter what you're doing in your life, try to capitalize on your busy schedule right now. This is a big question that I really want to ask you to internally think about, and maybe can make some big changes in your life if you really discover there's something that you used to do that you no longer do. So my question is, do we get exhausted because of all that we are doing, or because of something in life we are not doing? For example, I feel that the volunteer position at the Dying and Destitute looks exhausting to lift and care for people all day long, but it's actually not exhausting at all if it's something that's fulfilling your life. Remember I said earlier that there is research that shows that people are the most unhappy when they're still and stagnant and they're not doing something. So maybe that's something to examine in your life. People always say, what would they do if they won the lottery? And a lot of people say that they would just take a long vacation and do nothing and just rest. But actually, a lot of research shows that that makes people far less happy than being busy and being active and doing something that brings them pleasure or joy. So the point here is that maybe the inclusion of certain life-resurrecting activities in one's daily routine can actually go a really long way towards fostering resilience and the capacity to deal with a long list of daily demands. So we've gone over so many ways to increase happiness and positivity in our lives, but the overwhelming challenge might just be, where do I actually start? This isn't about changing your whole life and becoming a completely different person. I don't want any of you to think, oh, I have to go out and change my whole life. I have to do this now. I have to become this person. The point is to be as authentically you as possible. Ask yourself, what's making me unhappy? And if you don't know, then that's a good time to do some self-reflection and mindfulness to actually pinpoint that in your life. Is it your relationship? Is it your job? Or self-doubts towards a career that maybe you would like to pursue? Is it a class? Is it helplessness in taking charge of your health or insecurity you feel about appearance? Or maybe more than one thing, because stories have a way of spilling over into aspects of our lives. Tackle the one thing that is affecting you the most, and some of the other things will start to fall into place too. And please keep building those happiness skills to have a better, happier life. So you guys answered for me question number 1, paragraph number 1, what is happiness? You answered for me question number 2, paragraph number 2, please list 5 things that you're grateful for. So question number 3, paragraph number 3, this is the final question. I want you to please answer this. What is one thing that you learned from this seminar that you really enjoyed and that you will try to implement into your life daily? It could be anything. Just tell me what you liked the most about the seminar and how you think it's going to help you. Thank you so much, guys, for attending the seminar. I hope you really enjoyed it. You're going to want to email your summaries to success@folsa.com, and good luck in everything you do.